Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Sunyavani Paskajaya Sadarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Advaita Radha Sita Shanti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Charan Vishnupad Paramam Saparvakacharya Satarasat Srimad is Divine Rates Abhay Charan Vinda Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Charan Vishnupad Paramam Saparvakacharya Satarasat Srimad Srila Bhakti Saraswat Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Guru Parampara Ki Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Shri Bhattacharya Raghunath Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Premsko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasa Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopnath Shri Amakunda Radha Kunda Kergavadan Ki Shri Vrindavanam Ki Charnath Purdam Ki Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Ganga Maya Munamai Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Shri Radha Madan Man Shri Lalita Shri Vishaka Ki Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Raj Maharaj Ki Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Ki Shri Gauranitai Ki Shri Lakshmi Nrsimhadev Prahlad Ki Shri Gaura Premanande. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to Gaur and Shri Gauranga. Om Ajnana Timandasya Chananjala Shanakya Saksharan Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svam Rupakadamyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Yuda Padakamalam Shri Gom Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Jagajatam Sakana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivan Sadvaitam Savrutam Parjana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jyatpate Gopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansna Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashvare Vishavana Sutta Devi Pranamama Haripre Frankha Kalpta Visha Kripa Sinvi Visha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesa Srinyavadi Paskachai Desotarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So we continue with our seminar from Shraddha to Prema. What do you remember from yesterday? Whatever you remember, one point, maybe. But who remembers something? No one? Yes, please.
As you told in the starting that Krishna consciousness is a process from Shraddha to Prema.
Yeah, it's a process with stages, from 9 stages from Shraddha to Prema.
Adho Shraddha, you quoted one.
Yeah, from Rupa Goswami, yeah. Good.
The first point you mentioned was how Kanishta Adhikaris respond to statements Lord Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita.
That Kanishta Adhikari.
How they see statements that Krishna is giving in the Bhagavad Gita for material purposes. For example, Krishna is providing what we don't have, carrying what we lack. And the way they see it, you were explaining in the beginning.
Yeah, the level of consciousness is different. Krishna consciousness is raising of consciousness, and we discussed these 5 levels of consciousness. Yeah.
From Shraddha to Nishtha, it takes a very long time unless one has special empowerment by the spiritual master or one has like the previous life's advancement.
Yeah, and that is very rare.
And that is very rare.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, he told us that there are two processes required for the advancement of a devotee. One is serving according to the desire of spiritual master, and second is Nityam Bhagavat Seva, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah, hearing the Bhagavatam and serving the spiritual master by following his instructions. Very good. very important. Something else? Yes?
Bhakti is like, it do not depend upon the other process like jnana or karma.
Okay, we will discuss that more deeply today. Good point. And behind you? Yeah?
You discussed about like there are 7 stages of Prema also.
7 stages of Prema, yeah. That's something for the really advanced. Something else? Okay, then today we discussed also last time, so this Anandamoya, in this Anandamoya, which is Krishna consciousness, in this pure consciousness we can live in a relationship with Krishna and experience Bhakti Rasa. The Lord is Rasa. That we also explained that Bhakti is independent. Remember? It's independent from Jnana, process of Jnana and Vairagya. At the other way, these processes are dependent on Bhakti. Because Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Payojita. So if Krishna consciousness is applied, then Jnanyat Yasuvara Jnanam Sayat Ahaitakam, then a causeless knowledge and detachment develops automatically as a byproduct. That so then, last time we mentioned, yes, the Lord is partial to his devotees. But that's not really an unfair impartiality, because everyone can become a devotee and Krishna will reciprocate. And that Krishna says that Yeyatam Papachitetam Sadev Vajamyam. But now it goes deeper, Srila Vishwanath Bhakti Thakur, in what's the cause of bhakti. And his conclusion is the mercy of the Lord is followed by the mercy of his devotee. That, Lord Chaitanya quoted it verse, Brahmanda Brahmite Konyavam Bhakyavan Jiva, Kona Bhakyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. We go up and down in this universe, and then when we become Bhakyavan, Bhakyavan means fortunate. And then, by the mercy of Krishna, we come in contact with his devotee, his pure devotee. And his pure devotee gives us the seed of devotional service, which we then have to water by Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. And that, but the question is, one can see a fault in the devotee because they are only distributing mercy to those who are innocent, not to those who are envious. That so he regarded those. He's regarding those who are inimical against bhakti. So the Madhyamidika is Isvara dat Adineshu Balishu Sitvivachasa Prema Maitra Kipopeksa Yat Karoti Samadhyama. How a Madhyam Adhikar acts. This is the action of a Madhyam Adhikar. So we should also learn to act as a Madhyam Adhikar. Does not mean we are an Madhyam Adhikar, but by acting as a Madhyam Adhikar, we are good candidates to very quickly become a Madhyam Adhikar. So he sees 4 categories. It's called a second-class devotee. And he has Prema for Ishvara. He tries to develop love for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. That Maitri is a friend to all the devotees, and he shows kripa. He gives mercy to the ignorant. He tries to give them Krishna consciousness, but he disregards those who are envious. So is that fair, that he disregards those who are envious? What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says, Sarvadam Prishikam Mahamakam Sravacha Am Svam Sarvapabhyam Kshisya Shimatishva. Surrender unto me, and then do not fear, I will take care of all your sinful reactions. But then he says, Idam te nata paskaya na bhaktaya kadachana nasa susrusa vevacham nasa mam yobhyastitfati. So this confidential knowledge, Krishna says, should never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or who are engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious to me. So because it's useless to understand transcendental knowledge. Already in 4.3, Krishna says to Arjuna, I explain you this knowledge and you can understand it because you are my friend, you are my devotee, and you are not envious of me. So that's the qualification to start to understand. So it's useless that if you try to preach directly to those who are inimical to us and to Krishna, then what will happen? They will commit offenses towards you. And they are farther away from devotional service. They lose practically all hope. Therefore, we help them by not preaching to them. That should be clear. Is it difficult to know who is envious and who is not envious? Well, you try to distribute books, you will find out very quickly. That's not difficult. And you avoid them. So yes, because everyone is in this material world because we are envious of Krishna. That's why we are here. We want to take his place, the enjoyer. And Krishna sent us here because we had that desire. He said, okay, you want to be the enjoyer? One problem. I'm the supreme enjoyer, so if you remember me, there will be no fun. So you first forget me. So everyone in this world has forgotten Krishna and thinks himself in the position of the enjoyer of all of the material energy. But now Krishna, he gives permission to his pure devotee to distribute Krishna consciousness. And he gives permission and he let him free to choose to whom he's going to give Krishna consciousness. And that's interesting. So he gives the control really to his pure devotee. And of course that requires pure devotion, that to get that delegation, but still those who are not pure and working under the instructions of a pure devotee, they are also empowered to do that. Interesting. But that brings to the point, Krishna comes under the control of his devotee. And Krishna speaks about that in the 12th chapter of the 11th canto, the Uddhav Gita. In the 11th canto, in 11th chapter, Krishna has explained the symptoms of liberated and conditioned souls. Very interesting. I have also a seminar just on this chapter. Very interesting. What Krishna says there. Very helpful in to get a deeper understanding of the process of devotional service. And then in that chapter he explains also how to attain liberation by the practice of devotional service. But liberation is one thing. Liberation is nishtha. But we have to go beyond to get Krishna consciousness. Beyond the Brahmabhuta platform, Brahmabhuta Prashanatma Nashosina Kangshati, that's the platform of the perfect Brahman. But we have surpassed the level of a Brahman. But Brahman means liberated. The pure Brahman is liberated. But then, because before liberation, before nishtha, the mind is so disturbed. We experience this all. We try to chant Hare Krishna. But is our mind always with Krishna when we chant? Mostly not. But when you are on nishtha, then you think of Krishna and you feel Krishna. And you can direct all your attention to him without deviation. That the gopis, their minds could not be deviated from Krishna even for a second. So that's, and then then the meditation becomes deeper, and then one's love develops for Krishna. So these are the higher stages of devotion. And when one comes to Prema, then one comes to the point of controlling Krishna. We come to that a little further. But in the beginning of the 12th chapter, because Krishna speaks to Uddhava, and Krishna has to open his heart in the 12th chapter of the 11th canto. He's going to speak about the love of the Vrajavasis and how to develop love for the Vrajavasis. And there he says to Uddhava in the first 2 verses of that chapter how to develop this love of the Vrajavasis. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, by associating with my pure devotee, one can destroy one's attachment for all material objects of sense gratification. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotee." So we can only learn it from a pure devotee, by associating with a pure devotee. It's by associating with Prabhupada and all those who guide us toward Prabhupada. And that brings me under my control of my devotee. And then Krishna gives a list of things which does not bring him under control. That which does not lead to that prema. And he say, one may perform Ashtanga Yoga, engage in philosophical analysis of the elements of material nature, practice non-violence and other ordinary principles of piety, chant the Vedas, perform penances, take to the renounced order of life, execute sacrificial performances and dig wells, plants and trees for public welfare activities, give charity, carry out severe vows, worship the demigods, chant confidential mantras, visit holy places, and accept major or minor disciplinary injunctions, but even by performing such activity, one does not bring me under his control. So the process is associating with pure devotees. They have bhakti, And that's the point made again. Bhakti comes from Bhakti. That's nothing else. And what's in a practical way, the way to develop this Vraja Bhakti, this pure devotional service, that's explained in the Bhagavatam. This is a verse from the Bhagavatam that quoted by, from the 14th chapter, I think, the Brahma Mohan Lila, Brahma, I think. But this verse is also quoted, or not quoted, but brought in practice. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita there. Lord Chaitanya wanders to South India, and during the Chaturmasya he stays 4 months at the house of the Kurma Brahman. And after 4 months the Kurma Brahman says to Lord Chaitanya, I've become too attached to you, I have to go with you. I cannot stay here. I cannot live without you. And then Lord Chaitanya gives him advice which is in agreement with this verse. Although this verse is not there, but it's in agreement with this verse. Jnane praya samupadasya mantai vachivan sanmukaritan bhavatiya vartam stanestite shudratam tanavan manabir yaprashachito tyais trilokam. Those who, even while remaining situated in their social positions, so you stay where you are, that whatever position you are, no need to change. And you throw away the process of speculative knowledge, that's no speculative knowledge. All the other processes which Krishna has said, they are not bringing me under control. You throw them away. And then with your body, minds and words, you offer all respect to the descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees. Certainly conquer your lordship, although you are otherwise conquerable by anyone within the 3 walls. So what is said here, you just stay where you are. You hear every day the Bhagavatam from pure devotees. That's important. You hear the Bhagavatam. So if you read Srila books, you are hearing from a pure devotee. Better, of course, is to go to the Bhagavatam class. That's then you can ask questions. But and then it's by dedicating your body, minds, and words, become completely absorbed in these narrations. That when Lord Chaitanya, Kadadhar Pandit was reading the whole, reciting the whole pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj from the Bhagavatam to Lord Chaitanya, and when Kadadhar had finished, Lord Chaitanya said, start again, I want to hear it again. So that's this. So that shows this lalyam, this sweet wanting to hear. This is most important. If every day we chant our rounds, but we should also feel bad if one day we cannot hear the Bhagavatam. Always hear the Bhagavatam. So, but then that's the process. We develop this love, and then the Lord is controlled by his pure devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, here we see how the Lord becomes subservient to his devotee, bestowing him his mercy in accordance with the devotee's mercy. So the devotee gives his mercy, and then Krishna's mercy is following. But there is no irregularity in this arrangement, because the reason that mercy appeared in the devotee is because bhakti is in his heart. That's the reason. And bhakti. He is associated with a pure devotee who has bhakti. Therefore, even if it's a little, but he has bhakti in his heart. So without having bhakti, there is no possibility of the devotee manifesting mercy to others. You cannot give mercy to others when you don't have this bhakti. That, of course, we can say, oh, then I cannot preach, I cannot give mercy. Yes, you can. You give someone Srila Prabhupada's books, and then he opens the book, and then Prabhupada is preaching to him. Very powerful. That source of bhakti. These books are a source of bhakti because Prabhupada's potency is in it. That, yes. Yes. Thus, in this case, the self-manifesting, independent nature of bhakti is again resolved. Bhakti is independent. And the devotee is independent in distributing this bhakti. That, so, therefore, in the statement, yat kenapi atibhagena yatta shado si sevane, the person who has attained faith in the service of the Lord by extreme good fortune, and the words atibhagena, extreme good fortune, should be understood to mean the attainment of the mercy of the devotee, which surpasses the results of material pious activities. But one can say, one should not conclude that since the devotee is dependent on the will of the Lord, that the devotee cannot initiate the bestowal of mercy. He can give mercy on his own. And examples of this are Narada Muni. Narada Muni, he made arrangements for Nalakuvera, Manigriva, that they would be liberated by Krishna, and Krishna had to fulfill the words of his pure devotee. If you read, when Srila Prabhupada arrived in Boston, there Srila Prabhupada in his Markini Bhagavatam, one of the two poems he wrote, the other poem is Prayer to the Lotus Feet of Krishna, but in the Markini Bhagavatam there, he prays, yes, that he prays for the liberation of all the souls who are emerged in the mode of passion and ignorance in this world. That, and he prays to the Lord, may they be liberated. That, so Srila Prabhupada was already praying for us before he arrived in America. So, for the Lord willingly becoming subservient to his devotee and gives preeminence to the devotee's position by granting him the power to bestow the Lord's mercy. Though, as Paramatma simply oversees the affairs of the jiva's external senses, which are the reward of his past activities, the Lord personally shows special mercy to his devotees by giving them his own independent power to bestow mercy to others. So that's interesting. As the super soul is in the heart and he arranges the actions and reactions of everyone, but in the heart of a pure devotee, he gives them the independence to give mercy. But as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, only by mercy can one attain the spiritual realm. This mercy is manifested in the Lord's bestowal of his own Kripa Shakti to his devotee. So he gives his Kripa Shakti to his devotee, who then gives it to the fallen souls. So that's important to understand as cause of bhakti. But now he analyzes, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is bhakti caused by nishkam karma? And that, so sometimes it is said that prescribed activities, karma, performed without personal motive, that's nishkam karma. It's like a door to bhakti. So is that true? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, there is no harm in such statements if we understand their relative nature. But charity, austerities, and so on were clearly denied. They are clearly denied as causes of bhakti in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. And I quoted a verse. So all these activities which do not bring Krishna under control. So it's denied there. But and then that so he quotes another verse and says, even if one endeavors by yoga, analytical study, by charity, by austerity, by jhaya, by chanting the Vedas, by study, by renunciation, one cannot attain the Lord. That, but at other places, it's also explained that charity and austerity are causes of bhakti. That's the opposite. So how are we going to put that together? And that, one of these statements is, devotion to Krishna is accomplished by such things as charity, austerity, homa, japa, study, sense control, and other pious activities. So, how to understand that? That's contradictory. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, what's mentioned here, and that's important to understand, the charity and so on, what is mentioned here, they are factually practiced as angas of bhakti. And there are examples of that. We have a vrata, not to eat grains and beans on Ekadashi. That's tapas. But it is performed as a part of the process of bhakti. And charity, you distribute prasadam to the devotees and the Brahmins. That's also charity, but it's part of bhakti. So that's different. In that way, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes that difference. Of course, activities that brings one to the mode of goodness makes one more receptive for bhakti. More receptive. So that is also important in our preaching. Especially when we preach to people outside, new people, we have to find out who is receptive. Otherwise, our preaching may not be successful. You need a target audience who is receptive. And that's important to understand that, because in like when Lord Chaitanya, he visited Varanasi, Benares, and he was staying at the house of Tapana Mishra, and Chandrasekharacharya was there. And at that time, during one of his first visits, all these Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares, they were criticizing the Lord as a sentimentalist chanting these holy names, that a sannyasi should not do that, should study Vedanta, be serious. They were criticizing the Lord. So he did not preach to them. But a few years later, then they became more favorable. And a Maharashtra Brahmin came on behalf of this impersonal sannyas to invite Lord Chaitanya. And then Lord Chaitanya preached to them and converted them all into Vaishnavas. We cannot do that. Impersonalists turn them into Vaishnavas, but he did. That he met Prakashananda Sarasvati. The whole story is in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So because the audience was more receptive, has become more receptive. So that's important. Who is receptive to preach to? That, in other words, who are the qualified innocent to preach to? That's important. Like if we have, and also when we have college programs, we preach to students. We have to know what's their interest, what are their expectations, what do they want, what are they expecting if we meet them. And then from their expectations you connect it with Krishna consciousness. And so that is important in our preaching, that to understand who is receptive. Many times people who are vegans and already vegetarian, they have also interest in spirituality, or persons who are a bit yoga. So different kinds of people, different targets, target audience, and we must develop special programs for different target audiences. But now the next point is, Bhakti is always different from karma and jnana. And Srila Prabhupada, he quotes many times in that scenario, on that topic of karma and jnana. He quotes this verse spoken by Lord Brahma Mohan Lila again, and that text 4, chapter 14, canto 10. He quoted it so many times. Shreya Shritim Bhakti Mutasyate Vibho Klishantye Kevala Bhotalapyate Tishama Klesala Eva Sishyate Nanyatyatastula Tusavratinam. Bhakti Yoga is the highest quality of perfection to be achieved by intelligent persons in lieu of performing a large quantity of spiritual activities. The example cited here is very appropriate. A handful of real paddy is more valuable than heaps of paddy skins without any substance within. Similarly, one should not be attracted to the jugglery of karma kanda and jnana kanda, or even gymnastic performances of yoga, but skillfully but skillfully should take to the simple performances of Kirtanam, Smaranam, etc. under a bona fide spiritual master, and without any difficulty attain the highest perfection. So it's like, husk of rice, there's nothing in, no grains, and so Srila Prabhupada in a lecture this is in a lecture in San Francisco on Chaitanya Charitamrita. So far salvation is concerned, nobody can be liberated without bhakti, without devotional service. So that's an important point to understand. What is real liberation? That liberation is mentioned in the second canto, in 10th chapter, I think verse 6, where it is said, Mukti, liberation, is becoming free from the subtle and gross bodies, especially the subtle body, because the subtle body that is the cause of our rebirth. But this can only be attained if we realize our spiritual svarup, if we realize that we are a servant of Krishna, if we have developed love for Krishna, because otherwise liberation cannot be attained. Because how can we go back to the spiritual world? By performance of karma yoga? No. Karma yoga can purify you. By the performance of jnana yoga? No. That jnana yoga will bring you to the realization that you are not this body. And Ashtanga yoga? No. It brings you to the point of coming in contact with the super soul. It's nice to know that the super soul is a controller of material nature. And what happens then? You stay here in this material world, that's all. How to go to the spiritual realm? Krishna says, for this you must know me. Bhakti amama abhijanti avyasa svitatvata. And to attain this position, to go back to the spiritual world, you need ananya bhakti, pure devotional service. Therefore, the highest yogi is yoginam apasarvnam madhyanantratman shadvam bhajtevyam samayukta tamamut. The highest yogi who is united with Krishna in the heart, with love. So without bhakti, you are not going to enter the spiritual world, because you have not realized who you are. We are a part and parcel of Krishna, a servant of Krishna. So a lot of to say about that, but that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says yes. He says that accomplishment of the results of bhakti, of jnana, karma and yoga are completely dependent of bhakti. So without a little tinge of bhakti, you cannot have any results of these processes, jnana, karma and yoga. Whereas the accomplishment of the results of the practice of bhakti is prema, is never dependent of karma, jnana or yoga. It's not depending. These are stages to come to bhakti, but we should take to the direct process of bhakti. That is mentioned also in this is from Harinam Sintamani, that there is mentioned. This is Haridas Thakur. Therefore, thinking of the welfare of the jivas in Kali Yuga, the Lord has descended with his name. The Lord descended and preached the path for Kali Yuga, the process of Nam Sankirtan. Since by this process, the jiva may directly achieve the highest treasure of Krishna Prema, which is actual happiness. That is actual happiness. It is called the major or chief path, as distinct from secondary paths of karma and jnana. This karma and jnana that they are factually, they become obstacles of the path of devotional service. We will see a little further that this is also from Harinam Chintamani. It says here that the practice of devotional service, that and the attainment of perfection is the same process. So that is our sadhana, but when we get perfection, it becomes a sadhya, it becomes a perfection. So after liberation, what do? The same as before, we perform devotional service. So it's therefore, Haridas Thakur said, at the perfectional stage of prema, the means of sadhana and the end sadhya, or the method upaya, and what is to be attained by the method upeya become non-different. So the process leads us to the perfection of prema. And prema means we are still practicing the same process. Thus there is no barrier or obstacle between the life and activities during the training and the perfectional stage. The holy name remains constant in both cases. In this way, the jiva can easily transcend the material world. That's from Harinam Chintamani. Now, I have some quotes here, because I want to know these references of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where do they come from? And I did some research, and this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 11, 20, 31. This is from Bhakti Aloka, written by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He mentioned the verse that was quoted by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So it's the point is na jnanam, na vairagyam, preyashreya bhavaya. Jnana and vairagya are not beneficial for the practice of bhakti. Jnana and vairagya. And then the verse here says, therefore for a devotee engaged in my loving service, with mind fixed on me, the cultivation of knowledge and renunciation is generally not a means of achieving the highest perfection within this world. And that's interesting. That, let's see here. Because we speak about jnana, but what is the realized jnana? It's not easy to understand, but what is the realized jnana is prema. Prema is higher jnana, spiritual jnana, much more higher knowledge. But you can only attain that when you attain prema. And we see that when this is Uddhav was sent to Vrindavan after Krishna. He was sent by Krishna because Krishna had promised to come back, but he could not come back because he was expecting an attack from Jarasandha and all these inimical kings. And if he would come to Vrindavan, then these demons would give trouble to the residents of Vrindavan. He did not want that, so he sent Uddhav. And Uddhav, when he arrived in the evening, so he met first Nanda Maharaj, and Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda. And Mother Yasoda had her eyes closed and she was crying all the time. And Nanda Maharaj had his head down, and although Uddhav understood that they were experiencing spiritual ecstasy, he was also thinking they are suffering. They are suffering because their prema is too high. So I will try to bring their prema down. I will tell them that Krishna is not really their son. You can read it in Krishna book. He tells them Krishna is not really your son. He's a source of all sources. He has no father and mother. He's a super soul in everyone's heart. He's all pervading. So he tries to bring them back, their prema down by trying to break the conception that they think him as his son. So Uddhav goes on for a whole time, is mentioning all these arguments, how Krishna is all pervading and the controller, and that it's 1.5 page in Krishna book, all these arguments. And then Nanda Maharaj says that, yes, Uddhav, you are younger than me. I forgive you. But you don't know who Krishna is. Krishna, yes, Garga Muni has said Krishna is equal to Narayan. But he's not Narayan. Narayan is Satya Sankalpa, he speaks always the truth. But my Krishna is expert in speaking lies. And Lord Narayan is always self-controlled, not disturbed by the modes. But my Krishna, if I don't give him food in time, he becomes angry. So how can I know Narayan? Yes, we are also worshipping the Salagram Shila, that's Lord Narayan, but Krishna is not Lord Narayan. So Uddhav was not, he could not bring their prema down by all this philosophy. So the higher knowledge is really bhakti. But to attain that higher knowledge, that's the privilege of the pure devotees. So this jnana can never control bhakti. It's not beneficial because if you want to develop these higher rasas, you must see Krishna as your friend. You must see Krishna as your lover, as your son. It's not possible when one knows, yes, Krishna is God. So that's interesting. That's the position in Goloka Vrindavan. Everyone remembers Krishna, and they think only of Krishna, but not their godhood. That's in the back somewhere. Yeah, he may be God or not. It's not important, but we love him. That's important. This love is what Krishna wants. And that's specific to Goloka Vrindavan. In Vaikuntha, the love is not so deep, because they are still, this majesty is there, this opulence is there. So this jnana and this vairagya can never control, can never influence bhakti. It's not beneficial for it. So therefore, this verse said, my devotee engage in my loving devotion with mind fixed on me. The cultivation of knowledge and renunciation is generally not a means of achieving the highest perfection within this world. The temple of Krishna Prema is situated on the highest peak of Goloka Vrindavan. In order to reach that peak, one has to cross the 14 planetary systems of Karmakanda, the Vraja Brahmaloka of the Viraja Brahmaloka of Jnana Kanda, and then rise above Vaikuntha. So you have to go above that. It's knowledge of bhakti, which is bhakti is the higher knowledge. So by gradually giving up attachment to the stages of karma and jnana, one becomes eligible for bhakti. So that's the condition. You must give that up at a certain moment. Of course, you have jnana and vairagya, which is anukula, which is favorable, and unfavorable, pratikul, and anukul, favorable and unfavorable for bhakti. That's another thing. So by gradually giving up attachment to the stage of karma and jnana, one becomes eligible for bhakti. After crossing the various stages of bhakti, one reaches to the temple door of Prema. And Shraddha is the only rule for people established on the level of bhakti. Shraddha is the only rule. So we will speak tomorrow about Shraddha, faith. As anarthas or unwanted habits are destroyed by the power of devotional service performed under the shelter of Sadha and Guru, that Shraddha transforms into devotional service with Nishtha. Firm faith, we have to come to Nishtha at least. As anarthas are further destroyed, one progresses from Nishtha to Ruchi, or taste, from Ruchi to Ashakti, attachment, from Ashakti to Bhav, or spiritual emotion, and then Prema. So Jnana and Vairagya are not beneficial for the practice of bhakti. This is Ramananda Roy speaking to Lord Chaitanya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ramananda Roy continued, occupational duties are described in the religious scriptures. If one analyzes them, he can fully understand their qualities and faults, and then give up completely to render devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a person is considered a first-class man. So that is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Give up all paths and simply worship me. Then you are the best among men. So the dependency of karma, jnana and yoga on bhakti must be accepted as a fact. Moreover, bhakti is instrumental in giving the results to the practice of karma, jnana and yoga. And it is not at all dependent on the practices for its results, it is said. So one can only get permanent results from this karma and this jnana and this yoga if one practices bhakti, because karma and jnana are supposed to lead to liberation, but desire for liberation, mukti, is one of the two witches, Rupa Goswami says. Bhakti and mukti. Bhakti is karma, and mukti is jnana and yoga also. That's for liberation. So they are obstacles factually. What is to be accomplished by karma, tapas, jnana and vairagya is easily attained by my devotee through devotional service. So no need to to perform these processes. And this is another quote here from Hari Bhakti Sudodaya. And this is from Srila Prabhupada, from a purport of Bhagavatam 4.7.36. The purpose is that sometimes when a friend or relative dies, especially among lower class men, the dead body is decorated, dressed and ornamented. The body is taken in possession. That sort of decoration of dead body has actually no value because the life is already gone. Similarly, any aristocracy, any social prestige or any advancement of material civilization without Krishna consciousness is good as the decoration of a dead body. That is what it is. The last quote here on this subject of Jnana and Vairagya. Bhagavat Bhakta Inasya Chatisha Stram Chapastapa Apranasyeva Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. Without devotion to the Lord, good birth, knowledge of scripture, japa, tapas are like decorating a dead body, who gives delight to relatives and friends, but is no use to the dead person. Thus, without bhakti, all these endeavors are fruitless, jnana, yoga, and other processes, and therefore dependent upon bhakti, as a body is dependent on life air. So tomorrow we will start with speaking about faith. Any questions? We have a few minutes. Yes.
Maharaj, you were talking about to learn the expectations of the students and then dovetail it. This isn't like preaching. I wanted some clarification. You said when we meet them, then we should know their expectations, and depending on what they expect, we should turn it into Krishna consciousness. I just want to know what that means.
Yeah, you should know. You should do marketing before going out preaching, and explore the field, and get to know what they are expecting. Like I was invited in Ghent in Flanders to speak before an assembly of Sufis, and I had their description of their guru, and I was giving a lecture from the scripture of their guru. I was reading the scripture, and then I started to speak how Bhagavad Gita explains this. And that was very impressive for them, that they became very favorable to Krishna consciousness. But you have to do some research what are they expecting, that so they want to have relief from stress, or they want to have a spiritual experience or whatever. So sometimes I've done programs without lecture, just mantra meditation programs. And after a few times, then they become more receptive. And mantra meditation and then prasad. That's but you have to see what kind of audience. And that I've also a series of special topics that I use for certain circumstances, for new audiences. You cannot speak straight about Krishna because they don't have faith in it. Faith is not there. But Krishna says many things in Bhagavad Gita which cannot be denied. The body changes. Who are we? what's the origin of consciousness. For students, that's interesting. Origin of consciousness. That and also Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj has written a lot of about that in his small books, and we can explain that in a very scientific way. That and they cannot go around it, and that may be an introduction to them. But this specialized preaching, especially the preaching to devotees, is more easy. The congregational members, but then attracting new, a challenge. Does that help? Something else? Yes?
You were telling Jnana and Vairag are hindrance in the path of Bhakti. But I heard, Bhakti Devi have two children, Jnana and Vairag also. So, sincerely practice the Bhakti, then automatically Jnana and Vairagya will come. How it's a contradiction or?
No, Jnana and Vairagya, they are the sons of Bhakti. So that means they are a result of Bhakti. We develop really Vairagya. We understand Krishna is the enjoyer and we are his servants and everything belongs to Krishna. And therefore, we use everything in Krishna's service. It's not ours. Your sense of possessiveness goes away. And you use everything in Krishna's service. That's Yukta Vairagya, explained by Rupa Goswami. And that's the result. So that's one side. And at the other side, Jnana develops by devotional service. You understand the position of the soul. I'm a servant of Krishna. You understand your whole real nature. And that's a result. That knowledge is given by Krishna. Tesham satyuktam bhajnam pidvurvurvakam dadami buddhiyogam dam. I give the self-realized knowledge to the heart. Bhagavad Gita, 10:11. Tesham evanakampatam amakjana chamtamanasa jamatma bhavastu jnaniti panavashvata. From within the heart, I remove all ignorance with the jnana dipana, with the lamp of knowledge. That's real knowledge. That comes from Bhakti. All the other knowledge and Vairagya is not complete. It comes complete only when Krishna is in the picture and devotional service. So helps. Good, we will stop here. We are a little over time. Look forward tomorrow to discuss the next part, Shraddha, faith. Thank you.